Good morning and welcome to the QuickBooks webinar. This is October 29th, so this is part 2 of the 3-part expert session. We have started our recording, and the recording will be available to you on our website sometime down the road, probably in the next week or two. You should have received a copy of the PowerPoint presentation this morning so that you can follow along as well as take notes. I'm Steve Schillig, the moderator, director of the Small Business Development Center, headquartered at Kent State University, Tusk. Again, quick commercial on the SBDC, provide confidential, no-charge assistance for a myriad of specialists and assistants. So if we can help with anything, please reach out to me, and we'd be happy to accommodate the best we can. I will mention again, if you know anybody that's using Desktop now and has been interested or considering converting to the online version or is a new online user, Intuit is offering a 1 month free and 50% off for the first 12 months to SBDC clients. And the SBDC client part is a pretty easy process. It's just completing an advisory form. There's no commitment on your part after that. We have muted everybody for the speaker's benefit. If you have questions, please use the chat room, and you can find the chat room in the ribbon either down below or up in the upper right-hand corner, and I'll monitor that to my best of my abilities, and we'll try to answer your question when we're on that particular topic so that you don't get lost, the question doesn't get lost. Pleased to have Ann Sharp on the call with us, the founder of Excellent Admin. She finished both her bachelor's and master's degree from Walsh University, worked in the accounting field for over 10 years, been teaching QuickBooks for 4 years, and her specialty in small business. Most importantly, she's an SBDC advisor, and we're grateful to have her on board as she's a direct conduit for you if you have specific questions or issues that don't either get answered today or ongoing down the road. So at this point, I'll hand it back to Ann, or to Ann.
Good morning, guys. So today is going to be some nitty-gritty stuff, some higher level things like sales tax, and then obviously learning to edit the last few big features that gears us up for next week, which is our full recap of everything we've covered in the 6 courses overall. I did change up the course a little bit today to add some additional things that I think are important compared to what the outline said. So I've kind of figured we'd play that as we were going through the course. And so I did some adjustments. Our adjustments here, we're going to talk about attachments. You can add attachments not only to expenses in QuickBooks Desktop, but also into invoices and stuff. So if you have somebody that you're billing to reimburse certain expenses like travel, you can actually get physical copies of those receipts to have for your records. We're going to talk about sales tax. Again, we're only going to talk about it in QuickBooks manner. We're not going to get into the gateway. QuickBooks does not pay the tax for you, but it does go into your bank account in there. So we want to really focus on that. I told you we would go back to invoicing again and how we can customize it to fit your letterhead or add your logos and do those types of things. So we're going to spend some time on that. And then we're going to review editing accounts, how to create sub accounts, creating an email in QuickBooks, and then editing your company information as you grow. So we're going to kind of dive into some of those higher level things that are some more nitty gritties and some features that we have with QuickBooks. So let me go ahead and share the QuickBooks screen with us. I'll make this big. Okay, so we're already signed into QuickBooks. We're going to go in through the attachments first, just to stay in order with our PowerPoint. So obviously from your home page here, there's a couple ways to do this. If you go into create an invoice from here, you see you have this lovely paperclip guy right here. So this is how you would attach something to an invoice. So let me put in and then let's do. Okay, and then we can hit the attachment and you're going to get a screen like this. So you can browse from your computer or scan stuff in, or if you use a doc center. Okay, most people don't use the doc center, so it's usually the scanner or the computer. If you click on the computer, it gives you a normal pop-up where you can search any of your files. If you hit a scanner, it's going to bring up an actual QuickBooks scanner manager, which will install or connect to your printer, and you just have to tell it kind of where to go. So I would usually use this computer attachment because by the time I scanned it, it's usually scanned into my computer anyways, but that's up to you guys. Now, once you have something in here that you've attached or selected, it's going to show right here. And this will stay with the invoice. So then if you send this invoice out, those attachments go out with it so that the person receiving the invoice can see the attachments. You also have it for history. And this, instead of being blank here in the corner, once you've actually attached something. Okay, so that's how you do it from this screen for invoices. You can also go up here through customer, create invoice, and then it's here again. If you go to company, make a journal entry, you have an attachment button here again. So you can attach things for, you know, like if you went out and did a bunch of cash receipts, you got a debit, petty cash, credit, where you're, you know, where you're going. So you can use it this way and then have the proof of all the receipts that you used. Once you scan them in, you don't have to necessarily keep the paper copy. As you know, those carbon copy receipts fade out and are not real readable come, you know, 6 months down the road. So if you have them in here, you've got another copy of them. And then if you go in here through chart of accounts, let's click on our chart of accounts. And then you click into your bank account. And you can click this edit transaction. You have an attachment button here. And the boxes all look the same. It takes you to this default setting of a box. So you pretty much can add an attachment to almost anything you put in QuickBooks if you wanted to take the time to sort all your receipts. Again, maybe not necessary for everything. Questionable things, absolutely keep it. Big purchases, keep it. You know, any equipment you might be buying, that would be good. And then obviously if you're trying to show somebody how much you spent on something, you know, obviously I recommend it. It's not going to bog down your QuickBooks. Everybody's like, oh, it bogs it down. It doesn't bog it down. So don't worry about that. It's just another feature that you can do to get it all in. And you can do it from editing. You can do it if you actually just do one. And you have it here. And I can say this is for professional fees. Okay. So that's how you're going to add an attachment if it's something that you want to add, whether it's scanned or something saved, to integrate, again, keeping everything in one place. It's really important that you back this up when you're doing that so that you can make sure that you're not going to have any issues with the data. You know, if you've spent all the time to put the receipts and the attachments in, and then you don't keep the receipts or attachments, and then you don't back this up and something happens, then you could have issues with that. So you obviously don't want to create any more headache than you have to and keeping it all in one spot. So make sure you back it up to make sure that you keep everything organized. Okay. So you can add receipts on, like I said, anything. You know, if you click into an account that has an expense, like these are our basic accounts like we talked about, but if you click into one that has an expense, you know, feel free to add anything you need. Your accounts receivable is when you're invoicing, so your attachments will be attached there, and then you have the journal entries as well. So that's how you add attachments in here. Simple steps. Obviously QuickBooks Desktop has the wizard, which is nice, so it's really easy to kind of follow that through and make sure you get it attached properly. The next thing we're going to talk about is sales tax. So sales tax has some setup features that you have to do. So you have to go over here to edit, and you got to go over here to preferences. And then you have to click here for sales tax. And then you want to look at your company preferences. So do you charge sales tax? We're going to click yes. And then we're going to see what the most common sales tax items are. We don't have any. So let's add a sales tax item. and the name could be we're going to do Tusk, okay? The description is going to be Tusk so that it's there. And then Tusk's rate was 7.25, but I think it went down, but we're going to leave it at 7.25 for right now. And then the vendor would be State of Ohio. Okay. We're going to quick add because we didn't create him yet. And then we can hit OK. And we don't, this is the spell check that I have set up because I'm not very good at spelling. You guys can turn this off if you want to, but if you needed it, it's here, and I'm going to ignore for that purpose. Okay. So then it says that we pay monthly. If you pay quarterly, that's different, or you pay annually, you can set it up so that it knows and everything here. So now we have the ability to actually charge sales tax inside our QuickBooks. So if I hit OK here, in order to update the preference, QuickBooks needs to close all my windows. So now if I go to customer, create an invoice, and I say that we're going to go to me, and our item's going to be consulting, it automatically down here where this has been empty, it says that our county is Tusk, that we have 7.25%. But up here, I also have to tell it to make it taxable so that it charges the tax here. You're also going to see it if you look at your preview. Can you see the preview on your guys' screen?
Yes.
Okay, I just want to make sure it came over. You'll see here where it'll say sales tax Tusk and then have the dollar amount here to give you a new total down here. So sales tax is charged based on where you're at. So some of you may have a bunch of lists that we need to create. Some of you may only have one because it's your location. And it, just so you knew, that it does show up as a secondary line on the invoice. So it looks a little bit different to them than it does to us, but it is here. So then if I hit save and close, okay, now if I go to look at my liability for sales tax, so you would go up here to vendors, and then you have sales tax here, and then you have sales tax liability. And this sales tax liability report is going to default to the previous month because you pay sales tax a month after. So September 1st to September 30th, sales tax is due by the 21st of October. Okay. If you're January through June, it's due in July. Same with July through December is due in January. So you're always a month behind, and that's so that the numbers are absolute. So this will automatically default to that number, to that. We're going to go ahead and flip it forward so that it'll show the invoice we just created. So you can see how it goes. Okay. So we have one that's under Tusk for $100, and we've collected sales tax of $725 once that invoice is paid. Okay. You also then have another, because we have a customer that we created an invoice for before we set up sales tax that doesn't have sales tax in it. Okay. When you file sales tax, you're going to say our total sales is 200, our non-taxable sales is this 100, and you're only going to pay tax on the tax you actually collected. Okay. You can pull this report in accrual, which is fine. But you're only really going to pay tax on the tax you've actually collected. If you pay it on accrual basis with the tax you're expected to collect, the issue is if somebody doesn't actually pay you, you've paid money and that is you haven't collected. So if you do it technically the proper way to do it, then you're going to have to do adjustments when somebody doesn't pay you. If you pay it on the cash, then you're paying it every time you actually get paid, which means that you're paying the exact amount you should be paying. And it should still wash out at the end of the year, whether you're paying it early or paying it after you've received the income. Okay. So just keep that in mind when you're doing that. When they look at sales tax with the state, they reconcile it on an annual basis. So they don't care if every month it was absolutely perfect to the dollar. They care at the end of the year what you were supposed to pay in sales tax based on your percentages was actually paid, and paid properly to the proper counties. So Tusk County, Summit County, those types of things. So if you go through and you're like, oh, I made a whoopsie, or I didn't do enough, you know, you put it on the next month and make sure you pay them because you want to pay them. But it's not the end of the world if there's an accident. Every once in a while it happens. You didn't mark something paid when you know, when you should have, you know, things like that happen. So this is the report. Go ahead.
And when you set up sales tax, it had monthly, quarterly, and annually. Ohio allows for semi-annual. How do you deal with that?
I would set it up as monthly.
Okay.
And then I would just make sure when you're looking at the report, you're pulling 6 months worth of data. Because you're still going to be able to generate this report. And if you do annually, it won't prompt you or remind you to do it. And so although the reminders for sales tax monthly are irrelevant, I'd rather have it remind me monthly, because then when I hit the month it's due, it's better than not having it until it's past the deadline. And QuickBooks does work on this side of the portal. So maybe 2020, because we're in 2019, maybe 2021 is we're going to roll into a new year here and get a new software. Maybe they add another option. That would be nice. But yeah, right now, that's just kind of the way I would do it, is keep it as a monthly basis. So this is the report you would use. You obviously will have more than one county. It's important to follow along in the counties. So you can always look at your liability throughout the month. And then obviously I'm not going to make this a memorized report, but if I go over here to vendors again and I go pull up sales tax, I can manage my sales tax from here, which would be either paying it, looking at the liabilities, setting the preferences, which would kick you back over here, where then you could add another sales tax item based on another, you know, another city you need, or another county you need. You do have to add the counties inside of the gateway too. So it's good practice to know that you're keeping your counties updated, paying attention to when the rates change. The gateway is really good about notifying that. You know, there's a lot of options out there. I always pull a map. There's a state of Ohio map with all the sales tax numbers on it, and it updates usually monthly. So I probably pull about every other month. I file enough sales tax on a monthly basis for some of the clients that I get the updates every month. But if you only get it every 6 months, Tusk changed their tax rate as of October. If you weren't due to file till January again, you would never know. You would not have made that adjustment October 1st. Okay. So you have that to add as many things as you need. Then also, if you go up here to vendors and go to sales tax again, you can pay sales tax. So when you pay sales tax, you get a box that looks like this. It's going to be on whatever check date you're paying it. So obviously September's is being paid in October. So it would be dated before October 21st. And it's going to show the sales tax through, make sure this date's right. You don't have to have a number in here, but because you're paying it electronically, we're not usually using checks. So you can type in electronically in here if you wanted it to know that it was, I put e-check usually so that people know that it was done electronically. And then you would have a list of all the taxes that is due based on what you collected, and you would click on the list. So let's go ahead and mark a couple of things paid so that we can see this list here. I'm going to create another invoice for training purposes too here. Let's receive a payment here. Okay, so we received a payment. So now if I go up here to the vendors and go back to my sales tax and I go to pay sales tax and I change this through October because we're just messing with October dates. Now you see that I have a Tusk item to the state of Ohio, and this would be my amount due. Okay, now you would check this box to say that that's what you're going to pay. But if you pay before the 21st of the month, you get a 2% discount. Okay, so my 2% discount is going to be on $43.50. Let's do 87 cents. So see how you have this little adjust button here? You would click this adjust button, which brings up another box like this. Okay, it gives you an entry number. you don't have to keep that either. Your adjustment account, I usually do sales tax discount so that you can track it. Okay. And then you're going to increase or reduce sales by, and I'm going to put 87 cents. And then it says you made an adjustment, no problem. And now I would select both of these because instead of paying $43.50, I would actually be paying $42.63 if I file on time. So if you file late, there may be interest occurred on it, right? So you could then do the same thing. You could still put it into sales tax or sales tax discount so that you can see that obviously you didn't get the discount, and you would increase the number so that you could get your number to match. This is probably the one thing people forget to do. You pay it on the gateway, you do it the right way, and then you don't mark it in QuickBooks properly. All you end up doing is entering the transaction in the bank instead of paying it. And when you don't pay it through here, so I'm going to hit cancel to show you guys what it looks like. And you go to your reports up here and you go over to your balance sheet. You have a liability for the sales tax you're collecting because we're just a run through for sales tax. We charge the customer pays it, we pay it to the state. It's not income to us, it's a liability because we're just holding it until we pay it back out. So if you don't ever mark it paid inside of QuickBooks, this number never gets adjusted. Then if this number doesn't adjust, then when you go back up here to look at your reports and you flip this to the end of the month, let me make this bigger for us. This number is going to continue to grow. You've got negative numbers in this report now, right? And then when you're trying to actually figure out what you owe, the numbers are all going to be skewed and wonky. And now this report isn't clean and giving me the data. And now I've got to try to factor it by hand. And you go down the rabbit hole of, you know, what ifs and how do I do this and why is it wrong and everything. So always remember to actually mark it paid inside of QuickBooks. That's the moral of the story, so that you keep your balance sheet clean. This plays into making sure that everything looks right, okay? And that people don't think you haven't paid it or have outstanding. So we'll go back in here to pay sales tax. We're going to flip this to October. I'm going to select both of these, pay, refresh my report, and now I don't have that liability account anymore. So you know that it's right. Now, when I do that and I marked it paid, if I go back to my home screen here and into my chart of accounts, you can see that I made the payment right here. And if you click on it and click edit account, you can see that it's sales tax and how it all broke down. Okay. So it will put it in, once I mark it paid in QuickBooks, it does put it in like a bill pay into my ledger here so that it's in my bank account for my reconciliation, which is keeping my ending balance accurate based on what you're paying throughout the month. Okay. So you can enter adjustments. You don't have to put in a check number. Make sure it's dated the date that you're doing it. Make sure you're actually marking it paid inside of there. And then it'll keep your reports clean. Because now if we go back to the sales tax here and I look at my liability and I flip this back out, my sales tax payable is already paid. It's zeroed because I paid it. You're still going to see that you collected this much in the time frame you're looking at, but as long as this column stays zero, you've done it properly. Because if you flipped this to a new month, like if I flipped this out to November and I flipped the start date to November 1st, I don't have anything because we haven't created any invoices or collected any tax. Okay. So each month you want to have a clean slate, or every 6 months you want to have a clean slate because of you paid the correct amount on the correct invoices through the gateway and you marked it paid in QuickBooks. Okay. Do we have any questions about sales tax?
Multiple counties, how would that be? How would that look in this report? Does it do all of Tusk and then it does all of Stark and all of Wayne, or?
Correct. Yep. So where you have Tusk and then State of Ohio, you would have Tusk, Summit, Wayne, Stark, Portage, and it would all be listed out. And as long as you're selecting when you create an invoice down here, which county it's supposed to be taxed for, it will charge the proper rate.
Excellent. Nope. And I appreciate that adjustment information, because that'll make it a much easier process for the discount.
Yeah, a lot of people forget to put that in, and then they have, you know, the lingering couple dollars throughout the year. Okay, so then that is sales tax. Okay, so now let's talk about invoices. So when we want to do custom invoices, up here they give you a few templates based on what you want to do. If you preview, bring this back over so you guys can see it. You can preview it, okay? So for example, I'll use me. I don't use a logo or anything inside of my QuickBooks. I paid a printer to print my logo on the top of paper that I put in the printer when I'm going to print an invoice. So I don't need this information here because I have it on my letterhead, right? But I still want invoices. I still want the bill to. I don't ship anything. I don't do PO numbers, you know, stuff like that. So this just is a lot for somebody like me. I don't need this. This might be perfect for you. This might be too much for you, right? Well, the best part is that you get to manage the template and you get to pick everything that you want to use. So then here's another one that they give us. This one's a little bit more generic. This one works a little bit better with me. I still don't need this information, but I definitely need the bill too. I definitely want the date and an invoice number. And then I want the description and the amount. This gives me plenty of space to type, you know, reviewed clients' financial information, helped file sales tax, monthly bookkeeping. You know, I can write out more detailed descriptions for our clients on what we're trying to accomplish and still get a total. So there's an option for this one of their generic templates. And then the other one we have is the service income, which again is the middle of the road. It just gives you terms on here if you're working on a specific project, and obviously PO numbers, and then tells you quantity. So if you're selling 55 stamps at 55 cents, you have that information there. So how do you edit this to make it fit what you guys are trying to accomplish? So if you go up here to formatting and you want to manage your template, you're going to get a box like this, okay? So you can copy a template if you wanted to make another one of this, right? Or you can edit a template. So if I copied a template, I would say use me always, so that I know that that's the invoice template I need, or name it something that you want it to be known for, okay? And I'm going to hit OK. And then it's going to take me to another screen here, which has basic customization. Do you need a logo? Do you want a color scheme? What do you want to change with this? Do you want company phone number, address? Do you want a fax number in here? And it's going to change the layout and see how it added the little fax guy here. Do you want a phone number in here? And it's going to warn me again that it's going to make another change. So here's a phone number here. Web address, going to make a change, and it puts it down here. But these two are okay to be overlapped like that. This one, you can't really overlap here. So maybe we don't want a web address with where they're trying to put it because it covers up our total. Do you want it to print past due stamps? So if an invoice is past due, it'll print it, and you print it, it'll say past due across the top. Do you want it to print a paid stamp when they've actually paid it? Or it's been voided or it's pending. So, you know, that saves you from having to buy stamps from the store that you would spend manual time stamping. If you have a colored printer, you can print them in red. You know, you can do those types of things. You can also then hit additional customization, which is going to take us to a more detailed screen, which then you can decide we don't want ship to. So see how it's not checked. I don't use PO numbers. So I'm going to take the PO stuff off. So then that goes away there. terms, I would probably keep. If you have account numbers, you can add that back on. I don't do any projects or jobs. So that's going to go away. But now this looks kind of funky, so we're going to maybe need to adjust that. You can also change these types of things so that if you wanted to say service date instead of quantity, you can click this. And then you can see it added, you know, another line here. If you don't want it to do that, you can take it back out. So you have some things that they've built where you can go in and kind of adjust this to your thing. Headers, footers, print, that type of thing. If you want to take it one step farther, which I did for what my invoices needed to look like, you have a layout designer. And if you click this layout designer here, you get the physical template that you can click on and adjust. So what I ended up doing is deleting things. I didn't need any of that. I need the bill too. I don't mind having the terms, so I'm going to select and move them over together to try to keep it, you know, straight. And then I ended up moving this down to accommodate my letterhead and moving these. And I'm just clicking and selecting all of it together and then dragging it. So I'm not doing anything complicated. So don't, I know it looks funky, but if I click just one piece and I move one piece, and then I'm trying desperately to get it back in the exact spot to line up, it can be challenging. But if you try to select more than one piece, meaning you click and drag, then you can move all those pieces together. So this would accommodate my letterhead at the top where it has our logo. And then if I scroll down to the bottom here, I have a footer, which is my email address and phone number and stuff like that. So I need to shrink some of this up. So I'm going to select as much of it as I can to move it up. And then I'm going to select this one and move it up to match it. And then say I don't like these because they're overlapping. So I want to bring it down a little bit. Okay, so then you could hit OK. And it's going to take you back over here. And then you can see that some of the changes, and you could see like when I moved this, it moved it up. So now I've got overlap. So I would have to go back to the layout designer in order to continue to make some changes. So let's go back over here. And I need the little shrinky guy. And then let me scroll down again. So now it's all shrunk up, so I could hit OK again. And now it gives me a preview of what it looks like. So this looks okay for me. It just depends on what you guys want to see. You can also add, like some people want to see sales tax down here, not up in the actual invoice. So you can make those adjustments as well from this screen. But you do have the ability to make it work for your company and what you're trying to accomplish, and make it either more detailed or very simple, and save it so that you can do that. And a lot of people are always like, well, I didn't know I could even add that or do that. So just know you have that option. I'm going to hit OK here. And so now I have a template up here. This is always use me, and you can see that it changed some of the layout on the page. Okay. You can also go up here to customize design. And it's going to take you to some of the custom stuff they have available for download. And these are like, you know, if you wanted always to print blue bubbles instead of having paper. having a letterhead, you can have it done this way. These are free for the most part. So you can select any of these. They have tons of options for them. Just adds another layer of oomph, you know, if you want your invoice to stick out. I don't see very many like huge corporations make it all pretty. And I don't do mine other than that I have my own letterhead that I have my logo on and my name and address on it. But, you know, if I moved, all my letterhead now is can't be used. So, you know, it has its ups and downs when you do it that way because my address would be different. And so obviously I wouldn't want clients to mail something to my old address. Or if your email changed, like I got married and my email changed. So then you know, my letterhead again was void. So there are perks to doing it this way instead of doing it as I do it, but it's really up to what you guys want and how you want to brand your business. You know, invoicing is part of branding. It's one of the first things people see. So obviously we want to use it however we can. So you could click through any of these pages to do it. It'll show you a template along the way. You can zoom in and out, and then if you obviously wanted it, you would add it to the template. So I'm going to X out of that because we don't need it. You also have, if you go in here to manage template, you can download templates, which on this screen, you can see some that have the backgrounds on them. Some of them will be colored, but they have tons of options and they have them sorted for you so you can follow through. So like if you just don't think the invoice looks the way you want it, look, here's all their other invoice options we haven't even looked at. They didn't even give them to you. You just click the download button. Again, they're free. They'll go right in there. You can also then edit the template with the detail with going to the screen we were on before, where you can shrink it to fit any paper or make any changes you want. And even if that's changing the color of it. Like here's one for dentist, you know, obviously like dentist, there's a tooth on it. That's pretty cool. You know, you have some options there, but you definitely have the ability to do as much customization as possible. So I always encourage people, spend the time because this is going to be the thing you probably use the most if you invoice through QuickBooks. And it generates your income. So spend the time to build it the right way the first time. And if you haven't done that and you've been open for years and now you're excited to do it, you know, dive in and do it. Because it's going to make a difference at the end for you when it comes to feeling good about your business. So that's how you do some of the invoice customization. Do you guys have any questions about that?
Not seeing any, Ann.
Okay. So our next topic we're going to talk about is editing accounts. So there's a couple ways to do this. Let's get out of here. Let's close some of our boxes here. So if you go in here and we go to our chart of accounts, if you have an account clicked in green, so it's green for us, and you click up here, you can click edit. And it's going to bring us back to the box where we had originally set something up. And you can change the type, you can add a description, you can add bank account information, you can say what tax line for mapping you want to do, you can change balances, order checks, you know, do those types of things. But you can make any adjustments you want inside of here, okay? So if you hit save and close, the adjustments then would populate up here. So let's do, let's find one that's fun. Let's do this one, the line of credit. So I'm going to right click it because you can also right click and click edit account. And it brings me to the same screen. And say I want this to become a sub account. Well, I'm not going to do a sub account. We want to change the name of this. We want to say, we wanted to add the last four of the account number on it so that we can track it because we got another line of credit, right? So I would make an adjustment so that it can't just say line of credit. Now I have two. I need to know which one goes with which. Pending your bank lines of credit have them coded like Huntington tends to say that it's line of credit 26 and line of credit 24 or 46 and 26. You know, they have numbers on them. So that way you can match it with the bill. Because if I'm going to make a payment to my line of credit on my bank statement, it may just say Citizens Line. So I need to know which one of those went with which line, which I would see if I was reconciling my line to make sure that it matched up properly. So when you add another credit card, so say you have a Bank of America card, well, now you have 2 Bank of America cards. And then you need to put the last 4 of the account number on it so that you can track it. Same with bank accounts. You know, you might have a primary and a payroll account, but then you added another one because you're going to do another business adventure or you want to start saving, that you need to change the account so that you can make sure that you're keeping track of them properly. So you will always edit that way. You can also, if you click into an account here and click into here, if you double click, it gets you into the transaction, but you also have the edit here. And then you can make any changes here. So if you're going from bank account to bank account, you can change stuff inside of here as well. So that's how you're going to edit an account. Really simple. Same thing goes for items. If you go up here to list, item list, if you click here, you can click edit item, and it gives me this. If you right click it, again, you can edit it as well. So you have 2 ways to do a lot of things in QuickBooks Desktop. I right click a lot. It's just habit. I don't have to move my mouse very far to do so. But it's up to you. It's just making sure whichever item you're trying to edit, you actually have selected. Okay. So that's how you edit accounts. Now let's talk about sub-accounts. So sub-accounts are used improperly in a lot of areas. Okay. So when you think of a sub-account, I originally go to payroll. My payroll account, I would have a payroll expense would be my main account. And then my sub accounts would be wages, which is what you would be paying everybody. Maybe you have workers' comp in there. Maybe you have a processing fee. And then also the company taxes, because as a company, you pay Social Security and Medicare, federal unemployment and state unemployment for your client or for your employees. Okay. So I would have essentially 4 accounts then under payroll. Then if you get into it, you would have another sub account that could be subcontractors. Subcontractors, obviously, you have to spend the money to make the money. It doesn't have to be a payroll expense. It can just be its own expense, but you know, it does kind of go in there when you're maybe looking at budgeting for labor costs and stuff like that. So when you create a sub account, you have the main account here, and then the sub account will be indented like this. So another one that I think of immediately is automobile expenses. I would have fuel, you could have repairs and maintenance, and you could have insurance, because you're going to have that. Or you can have an insurance expense, and underneath it, you can have sub accounts that are auto insurance, business insurance, workers' comp is technically an insurance you could put there. You might have health insurance there. And again, that could go into your cost of labor as well. So it's really on what you're trying to see and how organized you're trying to be. You're at the end of the year, what your accountant sees for taxes is going to be all those breakdowns, but they have certain spots that the expenses have to go in. So it doesn't matter how you want to see it on the profit and loss. It still may not be exactly the same on the tax return. So it's just the financials, and what you decide to do sub account wise is a preference on you. So up here, you can go in and edit an account, and you can click this button here that says sub account. So say I don't want fuel to be a sub account anymore. I can hit save and close, and now it's not indented anymore, right? If I want it to be a sub account again, I can click this box again and put in auto, so that I can hit save and close, and then it indents here. Now, if I try to edit automobile expenses and say I want to change it from an expense to a cost of goods sold, I can't change it because it has a sub account. So if you're trying to change a main account that has a sub account, you might get this error depending on what you're trying to do. So you would have to go in and then unsub account everything to move this to then resub account everything. So that's really a preference on you. I'm going to hit cancel because we want that to be that way. And then let's see here. I would say let's create a new account. We're going to call it an expense. And we'll say this is repair and maintenance for the auto. And I'm going to sub-account this to auto expense. And I can hit save and close. And now you've got 2. Okay. So you can edit that all you want. It's no big deal. We also talked about way back in class 1 how you could manage users and set up users and be in multi-user mode. If you're in multi-user mode, so up here it would say multi-user. So I'll flip us to multi-user so we can see it again. See how it says multi-user, and then I'm in as the admin, which is okay. If you go into your chart of accounts and you go to edit an account and say you want to take it from here, it will let you edit certain things while you're in multi-user. It will not allow you, I'm going to put this back to the auto expense. If you go into edit, or you go into list, I'm sorry, go to list and hit edit item, and you want to edit the item to change, it will not allow you to edit items in multi-user mode. So you can edit accounts if you have the proper security or settings, but it will not allow you to edit the items. You have to move from multi-user mode to single user mode. So why is this important? If you move to single user mode, it's going to kick your other users out in order for you to make this change. But you will get this where you're not allowed to do certain things when you're on multi-user mode. So be aware of that when you're creating and editing accounts or items or transactions. You may get a warning like this that says we can't do it. Okay, so I'm going to switch us back to single user because we don't need to be on multi for what we're trying to do today. Okay, so now we're back in here where then if I wanted to go to list, an item list, and I right click to edit, it changed for me. Okay, so just be aware of those little quirks that happen with it, is that you can always edit on one side, maybe not edit on the other. Why, I don't know. I wouldn't think it would matter. If you have the ability to view your item list, you would think no matter who's logged in, you would be able to edit it. It probably has something to do with the fact that it changes the way the accounts show on the profit and loss when you make an edit to your item list. So that may be something that is going to handicap it when you're in multi-user mode. Okay. So that's how you do sub accounts, edit accounts, and everything like that. So then the next thing we have is emails. So a lot of us probably live on our email. I know I do. I live on my email. I live on everything about it. I do most of my communication through it. So I don't do a lot of emailing of my invoices through QuickBooks because I have to print them to put them on the letterhead to then scan and email them. But if you use and customize the QuickBooks one, then you would email it. So this is where everybody's like, well, QuickBooks Online is great because I can email on the go. You can email on here, you just can't email on the go. You don't have a mobile app for this one. So how do you set it up? It depends on what email server you're using. We're going to go through like a web platform with Outlook to set it up. But if you have Gmail and stuff, there might be a little bit different, couple extra hoops when you're going to set it up. So bear with us as we're going through that. But it does give you, again, a wizard to kind of go through if you know how to get it started. So 2 ways to do this. If you go up to customers and you go to create invoice here and you select the email option and you say you want to email it, it's going to tell me, oh, wait, let me go back and invoice here. You can email an invoice with attachments. This is how you would send the attachments to the person that you're sending it to. So if you only select invoice, they won't get the attachments. So if you've attached something that you don't want somebody to see, you can send them separated. But if I want to email the invoice, it's going to say that it's going to go to Ann Sharp, but we don't have an email address for Ann Sharp, right? So I would need to enter an email address for our clients. So your clients or vendors need to have email addresses in order for you to use the email feature. So it will help us here. That's the first step to look at. The second thing you want to look at is if we go to edit preferences. And then we look at send forms. It's going to ask you what email you have. So you can auto check email later in your invoices, which means that when you're ready to finally email it, it'll go out. Or you can have to manually check it yourself. That's up to you. I usually don't have it checked because I'm emailing them as soon as I complete the invoice because I don't want to do a bulk email, but that's, that's up to whatever you guys are comfortable with. So I might use Outlook, but I'm going to click the webmail, and then this box pops up where I can click add. So my email ID and my provider here is Outlook. I'm going to let them do the recommended security things. So it's going to give us a couple levels of login. It's going to ask me for my Intuit account, which you guys all have if you bought the software because it is required that you have one. It's obviously got the security feature here. Now it's going to take me to my email portal where I actually need to type in my real email password. Now it has it down here. Okay. So if I hit OK, it's updating my preferences, so it closed everything. And then let's go to create an invoice again. And we're going to click to a previous, and I'm going to click email the invoice, and I'm going to put, so you guys can see how it would go out. You get the box like this. So the invoice is going to be an attachment. You can have it as the basic invoice template. Invoice 3 for excellent admin, dear customer, your invoice, and it would say whatever the number is for $536. Please attach payment immediately. And you can change any of this. This is all clickable. And then you could hit send. And he's thinking it takes a minute for it to all to attach and go through the web. So obviously with desktop, if you're sending emails, you have to be attached to the web. The first time you send it takes a little bit longer than normal. It's usually a quick process after the first few. So it does have this. Now, if you're in 2018, you probably can still send emails right now, but by next year, you probably won't be able to. If you're in 2017, I don't think you can send emails at the moment. Okay. So keep that in mind when you're doing it, that it does change some of the stuff we're doing. So it looks like QuickBooks actually glitched and kicked us out. So I'm going to open my email on another screen and see if it actually sent the email. And then I'll get QuickBooks open back up for us. And this happens, it's trying to do something large. So let's go back here to invoice. It remembered that this was my client's email. So once you've typed it in, it will remember. And I'm going to try to send it again and see if we can't get it to go. You should get a little box that says, your email has been sent. Nope. So it looks like there's an issue, a bug in QuickBooks 19 with sending emails, or my email's not set up properly, meaning it just hasn't verified that it's a web-based Outlook email. So we'll try again at the end of today's class and see if we can't get it to go, because obviously it's aired out on us twice and kicked us out of QuickBooks. It's not a perfect system. I mean, they're constantly building, so don't panic when that happens. But obviously, we want to be able to email things to clients. That's one of the perks of having the software. So we want to make sure that we get that bug resolved, whether it's changing security settings or reaching out to Intuit itself. You know, this might just be something on my end, but we do want to make sure we get it done. So we'll give it a few minutes since we just set it all up and come back to it towards the end of class and see if there's anything else we need. So we also have some other things we would need to edit as our company grows. So one of the things we might need to edit is going to be our company information. So if you go to company and my company, you can see you have information here and you can edit it. They have 5 areas that they want to edit. Who's the contact information, phone numbers, fax, websites, the legal information, so that it matches your legal address, the company EIN or social. If you use your social, I do not recommend putting it in here until you try to do tax time, because if your invoice templates are set up funky or you've added to show your EIN on it, if you put your social in here, you would actually show your social, which we don't want to do. But you do need it in here if you're going to use it for the 1099s that you would create. So eventually you will have to enter it in. Just be very careful when you do. You don't need it going to every person you send a bill to or send an invoice to, because some of them might not even meet the threshold. You have report information.
And
yeah.
Will you get an error message if you don't put your social security number in it and then you try to prepare a 1099?
You actually will not get an error message. It will print blank on the form.
Okay.
We'll go through, I can run through that after we finish this little section here, Steve, and see if it's updated since last year. I mean, they obviously always are making that better, but last year I think I ended up having a client that printed them and it didn't have their EIN on it and it didn't error us at all. So, okay, so then you can do your reporting. So those of you that may not be January through December, maybe you're mid-year to mid-year, nonprofit world, you know, make sure you adjust that so that it's easier to show your fiscal year. If your type changes, you know, feel free to do that, change everything there. And then if you have any payroll information that you need. And if you use payroll inside of QuickBooks, which I didn't teach at all because I don't use it, and we probably could do a secondary class on that, Steve, if we ever wanted to grow here, you would want this contact information in because they're going to go on every form that you print. Okay. So if I hit OK, then any updates you make will be changed here. Okay. You also can manage your accounts here. So, you know, if you buy checks through Intuit, you have any details here, you have this information here, and then you have your subscription, which shows your license number and product number. If you ever needed to know that information or you lose your little paper with your disc, you obviously have it available here. You also have it if you go under help and you can go through about QuickBooks 19. You get, I'm going to share the other screen here. Oh, I can't actually show you. I apologize, guys. You get a little green bubble that pops up that shows this information too. That looks like the QuickBooks logo. So you have a couple ways to see your license number if you don't have it written down or you lose that piece of paper. It happens when you've been using it for multiple years. Don't worry about that. And then up here, I told you it made us sign into our Intuit account. You know, it'll show whatever email address you have up here. If you need to edit it, you click on it and get re-signed in to change it. And you can turn on services through here as well. So this is where it's going to house all your company information. Now, Steve asked a good question. If you use this to print 1099s and you use the wizard, you're going to get some steps here where you could select that these guys are going to get it. And I get a warning if they don't have a tax ID number, which I can type in here. And I can hit continue. And then you could tell it what box to go in. Most of them is non-employee compensation. And you can print 1099s. So it'll tell me my vendors aren't set up, but Steve, it did not tell me that we are not proper. So no, it still does not give you an error if you do not have it in there. You would just print and not have it. So definitely make sure you pay attention to the EIN and Social Security. Just don't put it on your invoices. So that's managing the company information. Now, the last thing I wanted to cover, and I didn't put it in the PowerPoint, and actually this is more for Steve and a couple people that had some questions for me about backing up. So when you back your company up, which we went over the first week, you know, backup company, create a local backup, okay? It creates a specific coded file. So it will be a QBO, a QBX, and if you ever have any issues restoring the files, the issue with restoring the file is making sure that you are bringing in the correct file, okay? So when you click to restore a file, you have company file, restore a backup, or portable file, okay? So portable file is if it's coming through the internet, and it will have a code, QBM for portable, okay? If it's a working file, it's a QBW, okay? So if you click to open a working file, it will only show any QuickBooks files you have on your computer that are with the code QBW. So if you're like, well, I'm trying to open my file and I can't find it. Well, if it's a backup, it's not going to show when you click open company file. It's only going to show if you click to open the backup. So when you're trying to reopen or restore something that you got from somebody else, make sure that you have the correct selected file. And if you don't know what type of file you are trying to open, look at the file. So I'll show you. Let's see here. Okay, so let me flip you guys. So let me show you guys the normal, we'll do screen one. So you guys will see everything here. Okay, so can you guys see my screen here?
Yes.
Okay, so if you have like here's a QuickBooks file just saved on my desktop here. If you were to right click it and look at properties, this will show you what type of file it is. It's a QBW. So this is a working file, not a backup file. Okay. So that's how you would figure out what you're looking for. And we'll kind of next week when we go over everything we've absolutely covered possibly through the course, we will go through opening a working file versus a backup file versus a portable file. Portable files I see mostly from sending things to your accountants at the end of the year, and they're making your final year-end adjustments. But you can also do that with an accountant copy. So there's two options there. Or if you switch files or like switch companies, accountants or bookkeeping firms, they can send a portable file so that you have access to your data, but they keep history as well, because maybe you didn't have the QuickBooks subscription after all, they paid for it. So that's how you will tell the difference. So it's really important when you're backing up and then reopening, or if somebody made changes and you're reopening a file, that you have that information and you know exactly what you're looking at. So that was everything that I had planned to go over today. So I would say let's open it up for questions. I'm going to click us back over here to QuickBooks. I know we covered kind of a lot of material today. The biggest area I would say maybe we might have questions would be the sales tax area. Some of the stuff was a little bit of a review, but I want to make sure if there's any questions from any class or anything as you have been actually using your software, that you feel free to reach out to ask any of those now while we have some extra time. And then I will tell you next week, we will go the full 2 hours. We might even be pushing it a little bit, just because we're going to recap everything we've covered in all of our classes. So it's going to be a lot of material. I'll go slow where we need to. I might generate some more questions as we're going through it, but it would be just like if you were doing it on a monthly basis. And then guys, I'll go ahead and put my contact information again. If you're still learning on everything and you, it's great to do right away when it's real fresh, but if you have questions as you go back to stuff, or you came across needing to make an edit that you feel like we didn't cover, feel free to reach out anytime. I can answer quick questions. A lot of it's done by memory since I work in QuickBooks Desktop all the time. But I do want to make sure that you guys feel free to reach out and anytime you need anything. Well, Deanna, I would say that I don't think we're going to have any questions, and that we probably are about to where we can round up for the rest of the rest of this class.
Sounds good, Ann. Thank you all for attending, and we'll see you next week.
Yep, guys, same time. We'll be here start at 10, and like I said, we will go the full time next week. Just make sure you have it allotted, as we're going to cover everything we've covered the whole time. We're going to go back to beginners all the way through.